third behavioral model call. I hope you can see my screen and the things we talked about last week. I'll go ahead and go off camera. And so did we have some PRs we wanted to start out with today, or updates to the existing stuff on the screen here?
I have two PRs that I probably didn't mention before. There is one that I'm still working on, thanks to Chris helping me to review it, with integrating a P4C fork.
One that's to share, or do you want to share?
Let me find it. I think I'll share it.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so talking about 249, it introduces a new container because we want to build P4C now. Reason being the support for connection tracking. It starts from the P4C. We need to support the new primitive and some of the table attributes. Following that, there will be a pull request with a code and behavioral model that actually uses that properly. So it can be compiled and P4 info properly generated. So this one is mainly about Dockers. It adds a new Docker that builds P4C, and that is used to compile the behavioral model. So the things that basically the files changed. There are just like new image, rules to build it, and the Docker file itself. So the things that are still left to be done are the CI updates, because we also need to put rules to build this Docker in CI. And probably I didn't look closer, but probably I'll need to change the Docker repo. Now it's not Chris's anymore, but that's it. So please review, leave comments under that one. That's number one. And another being the changes for some SciFix. Let me start with the SciFix first. So in ACL, our 5-tuple source and destination IPs are lists of prefixes, should be lists of prefixes, instead of lists of just /32 IP addresses or /128 IPv6 addresses. So this is what I was trying to fix. And the fix itself is for now just contained in the type for the key derivation in a SciAPI gen. And right, so what Chris mentioned that we probably should move the types to the annotations, custom annotations. Totally true. So this will be done when we will move to annotations instead of deriving the types from the P4 types and other stuff. So this is another change, and that's it.
Should we just post an action item like in the work items, just to keep track of some of these to-dos in the future, so we don't?
Probably, yeah. Like Sci annotations is something that we would like to have definitely, so we can track it.
So Christina, that might be a good item to put in your project file.
Okay, in the backlog?
Yeah, use P4 annotations instead of, what would you call it, Marion? Heuristic in the code generator? Or some,
Exactly.
yeah.
Okay.
And it can be, incremental over time, and eventually that code generator will get simpler and simpler, like you said, Marion. And the P4 code will get more and more chatty.
But by the way, those changes are related to the ACL that Marion you created. So are they related to aligned with the documentation also, or we still need to update documentation and dash before?
They are definitely aligned with Sonic design. I'm not sure about the rest. I didn't check.
Okay, it would be great to check then. Just, to not confuse people then.
Yeah, let me pull that one up while Christina is adding items to backlog. I'll check in a few minutes.
So does someone need to own this item, or this is just guidance for people?
Annotations, yeah, probably at least I'll start it so that we have this as part of tool. Should be done for tables, for keys, for action parameters. So I'll start with something like tables, I guess.
Getting a long list, guys. But it's good to keep track of all of it. Does that satisfy your need for a work item, Chris?
Yeah.
Okay, good. What's an uncanny valley?
Sorry, it's a name for when you see computer animation of a person that's so close to the real thing, it kicks in a weird part of your brain that makes you think it's very strange.
So yeah, they didn't have any longer hair than this. This is it. So yeah. Well, did you need to share your screen, Marian? Something you were looking at? I stopped.
I'm looking offline. I'm just going through
okay.
You can proceed.
Okay, well that's did anyone else have a PR or a Q&A they wanted to cover? Or updates to their current work items? Share my screen again. Or one they wanted to pick up.
So I have one question in relation to the connection tracking. Maybe this question was already raised. I don't remember. About the two tables in the behavior model pipeline. So for the connection tracking, we have two tables, one from the inbound and another one for the outbound. So my question is, does user expect to have those two tables?
Tables or two entries, please?
No, two tables. One is for the inbound and one is for the out. So I thinking if it should be mandatory, and we will have some API to gather some information from one of those two tables, or this is just a BAM v2 implementation.
Yeah, this is just a BAM v2 implementation.
Oh, okay, so it's like on real hardware it can be just one table, and okay, I got it.
Yeah.
So it means that once we have the flow in one direction for them starting from the outbound, so the one entry will be added to the one table and another into the another table.
Yeah, they should learn identical entries.
It will be always synchronized.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Atomic learning into both, but it was easier to implement, or actually not really implement, but to express this with two tables instead of one.
okay. So on real hardware, actually, it can be even one table with one entry.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
I mean, I guess I'm assuming in general that this P4 reference code is exactly that. It's reference code run on a software switch to get the test passing and document precisely how the data path should work. Hardware implementations can ignore that P4 code.
Yeah.
Working
understandable.
documentation.
I was just, wondering if there will be some other interfaces to gather some information from those tables, so end user will expect those two tables present, but looks like no.
I mean, I guess I'm assuming the SCI APIs or the northbound APIs, whatever they allow is allowed and whatever they don't isn't.
So currently, there is no any API related which are relevant to those tables, right?
I'm sorry?
Right, yeah, that's correct.
Sorry, I didn't understand the last sentence.
I mean that currently there is no any SCI API that rely on those tables. So it looks like
Then there's no access to them, right? Through SCI.
Yes.
For now, no, because they are learning entries themselves. They don't need, at least for now, the entries to be programmed, and in the future probably will need to read from those tables something.
At least
But
number of entries, for example, it would be, I think, great, right? I remember we discussed.
there's a lot of statistics that you can read. It's not yet implemented or defined.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, thank you.
Maybe could we update the dates on these, Marian? I see, okay.
So connection tracking and compiler, this is what I submitted.
Change it to, are we in November? Okay.
Maybe the progress should be changed for that one.
What's that?
Progress status for item number 8 can be changed because, as I said, it's the pull request is submitted.
Okay.
So
So,
I don't know, shipped? Is that the one?
yeah, maybe I'll make one for PR submitted later today. I can do that today. Okay. Do you guys have anything else for today? I guess we're open for Q&A.
Just any progress underlay API for the BMV2? I know that it was postponed, right? This activity, but maybe there is some updates on this.
The
No,
underlay.
Oh, okay, it's in progress, kind of. Oh, Marian, it's in your.
I'm saying I didn't do anything with it.
Okay.
Christina, line number 13, that's the one.
So check back on this. All right.
So this says underlay SCI API. So the dash API header file that Marianne you have in the SCI community, does that include the underlay portion as well? And this is the implementation of that in the BMV2 support for it?
Sorry, I didn't get the question. Underlay is already part of SCI.
Okay.
We're not.
The SCI header file, part of regular SCI you're saying?
Yeah, we're using standard SCI for underlay. We're not coming up with anything new.
And the CAPM mapping, the special routing, that still doesn't really cover that covers that's covered in SCI, so we don't need anything new in Dash. We can do that.
CA to PA and special routing are part of overlay APIs. It's not underlay.
Okay.
On that topic, I wanted to just throw an idea out that I actually got inspiration from the OCP summit. I think that's where I got this. So the Sonic Pins project has a partial implementation of the underlay in P4 for the VS switch. Is that correct, Reshma?
Sorry, didn't fully get that question.
Okay.
Pins.
The Sonic Pins project has a
Mhm.
partial implementation of Sonic underlay in P4 that's been brought up to date and runs in BMV2. Is that correct?
It does. Pins has no particular change in the Sonic VS. Sonic VS exists as of today and utilizes BMV2. I thought that there is no pipeline used, there is no libsci in the Sonic VS, but nothing new that has been added from Pin side. But our goal is to, the way we have mentioned it earlier, we want to have Sonic running with P40 PDK, which will also implement Pins when it is ready in the future.
Okay, maybe I didn't express myself very well. I thought there was some P4 code that was kind of newer that implements just enough underlay for use in some Sonic Pin simulations. And I guess my intention was to say maybe that code, if we wanted to do this in this group, could be spliced into our BMV2 for Dash so that we have enough underlay support to do more thorough simulation.
I see. I think that there is no public code with Pins implementation for Sonic VS or with BMV2 at this moment.
Okay. Well, if and when that does happen, that's something to consider, because, and then a related subject, which I'll segue into, there's been an expressed desire, certainly by Gerald, to have, this Dash behavioral model as part of a complete Sonic virtual implementation that we could run for CI/CD. So it would be the full Sonic stack, at least for a Dash DPU subset, along with the pipeline, all integrated and running in pure software. And so I think in order to do that, well, to cut to the chase, a SyncD version of Dash behavioral model, and that's come up in recent discussions. And if that's a long-term aspiration, perhaps this underlay code could form part of that solution if it becomes available. Because I don't know that we could do a full Sonic stack simulation of Dash unless we had some underlay code, right?
Right.
Otherwise, Sonic's going to, libsci all the headers you need to integrate to SyncD. Not going to be there, right? It's not going to link. And there may be people on this call who know a lot more about linking SyncD and compiling it with libsci, but my expectation would be it's going to make all kinds of attempts to link to code that isn't there in the current Dash implementation. And so can
But
someone?
Those are two different things. If there is missing code, there can be stuff put in there. We don't really need to simulate every API in P4.
Good. I'm glad. That's what I expected. Yeah, we could mock up most of it, but then let's say just something simple like an L3 route, right? So that we can get a packet from one place to another, forwarding. We might need some minimal implementation, right, of underlay.
No, I disagree with that. I don't think that it's worth an effort for Dash project to do the real underlay simulation.
Okay, what would be a good alternative? I mean, obviously we want to keep our life simple.
Do nothing. You have just one port. Pack it in, pack it out. The only thing that matters is the overlay pipeline that actually modifies the packet.
Would there be any test cases that we'd want to run from standard PTF, for example, in a Dash simulation of Sonic? I guess I'm trying to reconcile what you just said, which we've talked about a number of times, and let's say a broader statement, we need Dash full simulation in a Sonic stack. Is there a gap there, or are you just sort of clarifying we can get by with this subset as long as we restrict our test cases? Where do you think that sits?
I don't think there is a gap. If like we want to configure underlay just to make sure that like we call the same APIs that Sai will call, that Sonic will call, we can always put stubs in there and say, okay, you wanted to have router interface, here you have it. I'm not really going to do anything with it.
Okay. We'll probably need to get, broader consensus on this, just so that no one has a different expectation. I'm fine with what you're saying, but I don't know if that's the party line.
Yeah, my point is like, look at it moving forward. If it's smart switch, then it's a different story, and you'll need to combine those two. But you will have kind of like a simulator of the switch plus the simulator of a DPU, and they will be connected by some virtual port. And we'll we can really simulate kind of a hardware, but this virtual port towards the DPU will be one port. So again, you don't really need underlay on the DPU, you only need overlay. Underlay is your switch, so then we can combine those two. But if it's DPU alone, you can always imagine that DPU just receives the packet and sends it on the same port, or sends it on the second port always. It doesn't really matter. We don't need to do any load balancing, nothing like that.
Marian, I think it. So I'm confused a little bit here. So we discussed like some time ago to add underlay routing support for two. I mean, update Dash pipeline or something else needs to be done there. Just at least we need to, if without routing, so actually nothing can work. But if you have the underlay routing, so at least we will, we will exchange the MAC addresses. So do you mean that for the Dash and the standalone DPU, don't need to exchange any MAC addresses and actually don't care? And we just
MAC address
packet back and that's it?
Right, MAC address is kind of an exception. You'll need to program MAC addresses, but you don't need routing.
When we are done with the special lookups for Dash, overlay table lookups, and connection tracking, when we come to the routing stage where the CAPA mapping needs to be done, whatever it may be, we will still need a next hop group, we will still need a next hop.
But why
is that all manually added through SDN?
No, I'm saying, okay, let's assume that Sonic will program next subgroups. Why do you really need them in hardware? Or in the simulator, to be more precise, not in the hardware, in the simulator.
You're suggesting maybe just simulate a default route or something?
Yeah, like pick a random port and then pick a MAC address for that port that was programmed.
Okay, but how
two ports are equal?
In real use case, for example, BGP, I don't know, ECMP, all this stuff.
Yeah, I'm talking about the real use case. You have two equal ports. You can combine them into a leg. You have one port. Like, what is the routing for a switch with one port? Ingress port is equal to egress port.
Okay, so why Dash needs ECMP then and BGP?
Dash needs BGP to basically advertise its loopback IP, not really to do anything else.
Like even for the inline sync in case of HA and all that, right? What if we have multiple paths? We need to pick a path and then resolve the next hop information, right?
Let me try it. I think Marian might be suggesting, yes, a full Dash implementation needs routing, but the reference model might not.
Yeah,
So Marian, your comment is only with the BMV2 implementation?
yeah.
So
Why do I need to simulate ECMP in BMV2? Like I assume that I have a converged network where all of my paths are equal and I don't care on which port I send it.
You want to simplify in the BMV2?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to really run BGP there and debug all this stuff? I don't want to.
So well,
Okay.
if it will require it in the real use case, this scenario, so probably we would like to run this. So in this case, if you want to simplify BMV2, how we should write the test cases, for example, the PTF test cases that we have. So we actually assume that we should have the basic stuff supported. But if we simplify BMV2, so in this case, we will need to have like a two sets or some conditions in the test cases that, okay, if it's BMV2, so please don't forget about any routing configuration at all.
Test cases should test for packet transformation in BMV2. Only the over.
So in this case, we should just exclude the underlay configuration at all.
But yeah, but by the way, I'm wondering, what are you testing, assuming you're running the test on the DPU? You have, again, 2 ports and you have ECMP. What are you really testing?
Well, so if
like,
you have at least.
Do you know
have to resolve the next hop and send it
do you know how the hash function works? How you pick one of the 2 ports? Or what is
so
it?
that how to pick ports, that's clear. So you know, even on the documentation, it's explained if there is no default role, so the packet will go for the same port. So the picking port is one thing.
I really need to drop. Sorry for that. Let's maybe pick it up next time.
Yeah, yeah, we can discuss it anytime, but looks like it's we need to have some decision here and understanding, because we are working, for example, with the PTF test cases, which should be running on the BMV2 and on the CI. So, and also anyone can take them and run on in real hardware, right? So it should work absolutely the same. So we need to understand here.
Right, but bottom line is that you're testing an appliance. The only thing that the appliance is doing is it's receiving a packet, slaps a different VXLAN on top of it, and gives it back to you. So that's what I care about. So
even if it
yeah, other details, let's talk about it next time.
Yeah, let's have this topic to discuss.
Yeah, I've got a note for it, Vladimir.
Sorry, I need to drop. Bye.
Thank you, Marian. Bye.
I made a note so we don't forget, Vladimir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Kristen.
We will need to discuss it.
All right. Any other Q&A or PRs for today? Start my screen again. So this is the list of stuff we need to continue to look at. And these are the items in progress. Right, looks like I can give some time back then, yeah?
Okay.
Work for everyone? Okay.
Thank you, Christina.
Yep.
I'm
I'll
gonna go
send out
spend it
notes.
right now.
What's that?
I'm gonna go spend it right now.
Gonna go spend it? Okay. All right. I'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Okay, thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.